Ken, how are you? This is Dominic Izzo from mojo50.com. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing?
Good. Sir? We're live, and we had somebody reach out saying you want to talk about a topic here, and I want to kind of read this out here. You're Ken Good, and you're a noted Texas bail attorney and a board member of the Professional Bondsmen of Texas. You've worked closely with lawmakers and other individuals on bail matters in the state. Talk to me about what you do and the nature of bail bondsmen and why in the name of God our criminal justice system is so screwed up lately to let animals back on the street. And are we blaming you for this?
No, hopefully not me. I guess maybe it is all my fault.
Well, talk to us about this issue, because it is an issue, because I'm out here in Chicago and we see people being released on the street. We get a gun crime one day and they're out on an I-bond the next day. And maybe you can, when your associate reached out to me, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to have you on because I want to hear why this is such a problem, number one, and why nothing's being done about it.
Well, I represent bondsmen across the state of Texas and on licensing issues and on, when they have someone who fails to show up for court and addressing those issues with counties. And we work. I'm on the board of the Professional Bondsmen of Texas. We propose legislation to the Texas legislature when they meet. We've worked very closely with them the last two sessions. And, I think the biggest problem we have is, we have kind of the problem is not really the problem that's being identified, because the problem is how in our largest counties, our largest metropolitan areas, how do we process large numbers of people through the jail quickly and efficiently? And as a byproduct of that, how do we make sure that we don't take advantage of poor people or forget about them? And the problem is our friends on the other side are saying, well, we need to be fair. We need to make sure that we take care of the poor. And so they're making that the problem. And that's why we're seeing problems across the United States, because the solutions they're putting in place are only to address a byproduct of the problem, which is we certainly don't want to take advantage of poor people or forget about them. And they're screwing up the rest of the system to just address a byproduct problem and not the issue itself. How do we get large people, numbers of people?
Is it a crime issue as far as the laws that we're enforcing, like out here in Chicago? I know we just stopped the weed enforcing, but I can't say how many people would spend 2-3 weeks in jail for small amount of cannabis, or driving while license suspended, while we're getting gun crimes being released in the streets. Is it a matter of the crimes that are being enforced?
I think there may be a small part of that, but I think that's a very small part of the problem, because I think our biggest problems are in our inner cities. I think we have an inner city crime problem, and everybody wants to say that that's a minority issue. And I don't believe that's true. I think that everyone else has left the inner cities and have left just minorities there. But that doesn't mean minorities are the problem. It's, schools have failed. They can't go to a different school. Families have failed. Families don't stay together anymore. We have a higher dropout rate. We have rampant drug use in the inner cities, and they have no opportunity to get jobs and be successful and do anything else. And so no one's addressing any of those issues in our inner cities, or they're not having success with it. And so now they're just saying, well, we need to do bail reform. And I think that is the wrong place to be addressing social issues.
There was a report that your colleague was telling me about that actually talked about how minorities are being targeted, it seems. Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, we have this, the gold standard of what was going to fix bail reform and get rid of the private surety bail system, which has been here for over 200 years, was this little tool called a risk assessment. And it was going to be, this magic device where you just put in this little data, answer a few questions, and it was going to spit out an answer. Oh, you're low risk, so you can just be released. Or, you are high risk, and so you must be kept in jail. And the problem is they didn't test it. They didn't do any studies. They just, these social justice groups just thought they knew best. And so here for the last 3 or 4 years, people like the MacArthur Foundation have given out over $200 million in grants, encouraging people to do criminal justice reform and adopt risk assessments. And now all of these groups have come out and just said we were wrong. The biggest one last month, the Pretrial Justice Institute said we were wrong. We should have never been recommending the use of risk assessments, and we no longer advocate for them. Well, that just leaves release everybody. Because other than that, if you're not going to say, well, we were wrong on everything, then they're just stuck with, well, we need to just release everybody and they'll come back. Because otherwise you have to admit you're wrong. We have to go back to the old system. Everything they're doing is creating at least a 40% failure to appear rate. And we've lost all accountability, and crime is going up. You can see it in New York. And now they're just stuck with saying, oh, the police are lying that crime is up 25%.
Well, crime, I know how those numbers are fudged because I've seen them firsthand. It was a running joke. The area that I actually policed was one of the highest violent crime rates in Lake County, a suburb of Chicago. We got all the element that Chicago chased out and Milwaukee chased out, and we laughed our asses off when the news reported in 2014 that we were the number one safest city in Illinois. We were all on duty when it happened. About 5 of us spit our coffee out because we're like, where the hell did they get these numbers? So we understand how these numbers get fudged. That being said, I'm always looking at this from a first responder point of view. If the laws were changed, or if department pressure for production wasn't so pressurous, I wouldn't stop you for you didn't use a turn signal, which I don't care about using a turn signal, but my department's pressuring me to get arrests. So I'm going to be, looking around your car. Oh, look, I see a seat on the floor. Please step out of the car. Now I'm going to do a search because I have probable cause. I'm going to arrest you. Find you got a bag of weed in there. You go to jail because you can't come up with a bond for it. You're sitting there. So on the first responder point, isn't there a responsibility for law enforcement to maybe restructure the way it's doing so that people aren't being put in jail poor-wise and being milked for bond money in the first place?
Well, I don't think there would be much argument that we need to do a from the top to the bottom review of our criminal statutes and reassess our priorities. But I don't think that is even a part of the discussion that's going on right now about bail reform. I mean, they're not talking about, other than maybe some marijuana charges they're trying to get rid of. They're not really trying to get rid of any other charges. In fact, they want as much discretion as they can get to certain people to decide what charges to pursue and what not. And it just becomes more of a political climate. I mean, I think what you would be able to identify with very, very much is, you're going to see people who get arrested and they're now, like in New York, they're on a list where the judge can't even require a bond. They just have to be released. Mm-hmm. And the complaint we're getting from officers is, I don't have time to do anything else because I'm just arresting the same group of people every day, every couple of days. And so they don't have time to do anything else because it's just a revolving door.
What sparked this? What caused this movement to either get rid of bond or just cycle them back out? Or what was the catalyst for this?
In New York, the catalyst was there was a misdemeanor young man who was in jail and he got lost and he got forgotten. And when they found out, he had been there a long time, longer than he would even be in jail if he was found guilty. And then he got out and he committed suicide. Okay. And that was the catalyst for the changes in New York, I would say what the fix didn't address the problem. I mean, they need to figure out ways to track who's in jail pre-trial. I mean, we had the same thing happen in Texas with a lady in San Antonio who got a $300 bond, and she had mental issues, and she refused to go to court. She refused to be interviewed. She got sick. She went to the infirmary. She died 6 months later of natural causes. But the problem is the current statute says if you're still in jail for a misdemeanor after 30 days, the court's to give you a PR bond. So we need better systems of tracking who's in jail pre-child detention and to follow current law, not just to get rid of a system that's worked for 200 years.
I know. And like I said, I keep looking at it. I ran for sheriff out in this area in Cook County. And one of the biggest issues is jail reform, and stop having people sit for 2-3 weeks or a month on these misdemeanors that serve no purpose whatsoever, because the effect is you pull someone over and they have a suspended driver's license. The driver's license is suspended because they haven't paid 3 tickets, moving violations. Well, now that person goes in jail, their car gets towed, their car's in storage, and the tow fees can pile up. They got court costs now. They're sitting in jail. They lost their job. They're not going to be, how are they going to get their car out? It is an absolute abysmal plan to punish people for ridiculous crimes. So on that end of it, I'm having a difficult time wrapping my head around why we're doing that in the first place. On the other end of it, I don't understand why gun charges, people will have a gun, fire off a gun, pop off a few rounds, get arrested, go to jail, and you'll get like my state's attorney out here, just give him an I-bond. Get him out there.
Well, but the problem, the problem you're seeing is the problem that we're starting to see in Harris County. And that is, if you take all accountability out of showing up for court, every time you fail to show up, that does severe damage to the criminal justice system because the case gets delayed, and at the same time, you people, the officers are arresting on average the same number of people. I mean, in Harris County, in a year, the backlog of cases has doubled. It's gone up 100%.
What's
so
the incentive?
You have to discount. You have to discount the crimes to get them to come in.
What's the incentive for cops to do their jobs anymore? You're talking about, we're talking about the same thing on discounts.
Yeah.
You're talking about them getting pled down?
Oh, yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah.
Well, no, yeah. Yes. Giving them a discount, or in like Harris County, they're just dismissing cases,
yes.
Or they're giving them deferred adjudication for violent crimes, like shooting a police officer, because that's what it takes to get the cases turned over, and that to keep it only at 100% increase in numbers of pending cases.
So how soon until just street cops just stop doing their jobs? I arrested 40 DUIs in 2015, never went to court on one. They all got pled. So what's my incentive for keeping drunks off the street? Why should cops, when you call 911, I hear gunshots in my neighbors, why should they turn the lights on and hit the gas? Why not just take their time?
Oh, I agree. I think that is part of the problem. And California has taken it even further. They've taken a bunch of felony crimes and they've discounted them to misdemeanors. And now they're saying, crime is violent felonies are way down in California. Well, of course they are. You've now reclassified those as misdemeanors.
Right.
And you take away the incentive for arresting people. And that's why you're seeing a spikes in crime. I don't think that the numbers that we're seeing, granted, numbers can always be manipulated, but I don't believe that I believe there is a kernel of truth, which is crime is increasing, which is a logical thing that happens when you tell people there's no consequences if they don't show up for court.
Okay. There you have it. What's the future? What's going to happen? What do you see? What, if any, solution are you proposing?
Well, I've written an article about what does successful bail reform look like. And it's common sense changes to the bail system, not wholesale throwing the bail system out. Nobody wants to see a poor person stuck in jail or in jail and forgotten about. And I think what really pushed this movement is that we needed some procedures, and the courts have now gave us procedures that will protect and ensure that the poor are not taken advantage of. And so we need to make sure that those are implemented like by state statute. So I think, there's only like 4 different ways that have been used to process people out of jail. Individual magistration, that works. In big counties, it takes a big investment of money. In the big counties, they use individual magistration with a bail schedule, a reasonable bail schedule. The cases say that's fine if you do that. People who claim poverty have to be given an opportunity to request a deviation from the amount within 48 hours of arrest. And then you've got a risk assessment, which now everybody says don't use. And then you've got just release people, which is what New York is doing on misdemeanors and what Harris County is doing. Well, just release everybody creates chaos. The risk assessment's been debunked. And so that really just leaves you individual magistration historically, or individual magistration with a reasonable bail schedule. And the 11th Circuit said, while it may not seem fair initially, someone who claims poverty may get an initial delay, but then their status gets elevated and they get a special review by the court within 48 hours of arrest, or no later than 48 hours of arrest. So I think if we went back to a system of a reasonable bail schedule coupled with individual magistration, and then set up a system so that we can track who's in jail pre conviction. Like every 72 hours later, if you're still in jail, you need to go back before the court. Why are you still here? And I think that would be a reasonable improvement on the current system.
I just say lock everybody up, throw away the key because you're safer in jail. That's just
well, the problem, that's true. I mean, that is absolutely true. But there's a big element of reform that's because of jail overcrowding. If you have a group in your coalition that is pushing for reform because there's jail overcrowding, deciding to just lock everybody else up or lock everybody up and hold even more people is not going to address that problem. So you're going to lose your coalition.
All right. I get what can people do to get involved? Are you accepting help? Are you encouraging people to get involved? What can they do?
Absolutely. Well, if you want more information, you can go to our pbtx.com website, which is the Professional Bondsmen of Texas. We have a lot of information on our blog. You should call your local representatives, county, state, and tell them that you are against bail reform, that you want common sense improvement, but not wholesale throwing out of the system. The bail industry does one thing. We get people to court. We've been doing it for over 200 years. And there's a reason why we've been doing it for 200 years. We're very successful at it. And the reason why we are is because we are able to provide the highest level of supervision that the government can't do as well. And we get people to court. I mean, and the statistics show that that's what we do. I mean, in Harris County, PR bonds have a 50% failure to appear rate, and we're less than 10. I mean, just do the math.
50% failure to appear. Oh my God! Those warrants mean nothing on that one. Is it a matter of who's getting elected? Is it a matter of who's getting elected into office too?
I think it is. I mean, to a certain extent, I think it's ending, but to a certain extent, we've been in a period where if you're a member of one party, you have to be in support of bail reform, and if you're a member of another party, you really didn't care. And I think now it's the other party opposes it, and I think we're seeing so much chaos and harm from the system that you're going to start seeing people try to find solutions. We're not there yet. I mean, you could look at New York. They don't have they have an agreement that's not working, but they don't have agreement on how to fix it. And they think that any way they fix it has to get rid of bail.
It's purely political. Yeah. It just really is.
I think there's a large part of that. I do. And we have to get away from that because, I talked to the plaintiff's attorney that started this in Houston. And I told him, I said, you do not realize what you've done. You are creating a completely unworkable system that will fall apart. And when that happens, you'll be long gone. You'll be pocketing your money. And these other activists will disappear as well. And we'll be the ones, all the people that opposed it will be the ones left to fix it.
There you have it. Ken Good, thanks. I appreciate all that insight that just aggravates a lot of us out there who try to be good citizens in the first place.
I agree.
If people want to get involved,
anybody can help. You don't realize just calling your local officials and telling them that you oppose it helps.
Okay. Well, there you go. I appreciate your time on that, Ken. Thanks.
Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome.
Pleasure talking to you.
Have a great night.